Hello, welcome back to EDH on a Budget. I'm your host, Iceman, and today we're going to be going over 6 budget board wipes that are 3 mana or less. First up, we have Corpse Explosion. Corpse Explosion costs 1 black and a red. For its mana cost, it's a sorcery that costs about 12 cents. It says, as an additional cost to cast a spell, exile a creature card from your graveyard. Corpse Explosion deals damage equal to the exiled card's power to each creature and each planeswalker. So hitting the planeswalkers is always a nice added bonus, especially because if anybody does have a planeswalker, usually the destroy all creatures will give them a huge advantage. Now, as far as the dealing damage to creatures, that power is going to be based on the kind of creature you have in your graveyard. So what you could do is if your commander were to be destroyed and it was a high enough power, you could just let it go to the graveyard and then cast this. Because it says as an additional cost to cast a spell, exile a creature from your graveyard, it's in the cost. Even if they counter Corpse Explosion, you can exile that commander in your graveyard and then you just move it to the command zone. Pretty sure that's how it works. Because Corpse Explosion should see that you exiled a card's power, but if I'm wrong, please correct me. Anyways, in black, it's very easy to mill or draw and discard and just purposely put it in the graveyard for very cheap. And then with Corpse Explosion, having 3 mana board wipes kind of changes the board wipe game in terms of you get to rebuild very fast. And it being damage, you could find a way to give your team indestructible or bring them back if that's what we're looking to do, make it more one-sided. Next up, we have Out of Time. Out of Time is an enchantment. Most board wipes are sorceries, so it is a little rare to see enchantment board wipes. This is 12 cents, costs 1 white. Says, when Out of Time enters the battlefield, untap all creatures, then phase them out until Out of Time leaves the battlefield. Put a time counter on Out of Time for each creature phased out this way. And then as vanishing at the beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter from this enchantment. When the last is removed, sacrifice it. So, more than likely when you play this, you're going to be removing so many creatures that they will never come back due to the time counters running off. If they were to come back, it'd be because somebody destroyed the enchantment or flickered it. Flickering it would actually be kind of funny because it would leave, then they would come back, and then Out of Time comes back and exiles everything again. So that's interesting. And because you phase them out, they don't have enter the battlefield or abilities. So that's an interesting way to get to recast Out of Time and reset the time counters. Next up, we have Citywide Bust. For 1 white, this 12-cent card says destroy all creatures with toughness 4 or greater. It's a sorcery. So, most of the time, if you're going to lose the game, you're going to lose it due to combat. You're going to lose it due to there's a lot of big creatures, and there's not too many that have weak toughnesses, less than 4 if they're that big. This will get around hexproof stuff if they're got that toughness 4 or greater. So anything that's going to survive is going to have a toughness 3 or less, and you could very easily build your deck in a way that has mostly toughness 3 or less, which would make this a one-sided board wipe, and one-sided board wipes are always going to significantly advantage you when you build your deck that way. Next up, we have Hour of Revelation for 74 cents. This is technically a 6 mana sorcery. It costs 3 white, but it says Hour of Revelation costs 3 less to cast if there are 10 or more non-land permanents on the battlefield. Destroy all non-land permanents. So this is more of a true reset in that it destroys all the non-land permanents. So even battles are destroyed with this, planeswalkers and everything. So the only thing that survives are lands. Now, how likely are there to be 10 or more non-land permanents? I'd say pretty likely in a 4-player game. Each person needs to have just like three non-land permanents. That's easy. And then the main thing is white. Are you going to be able to have 3 white pips to put into this? Obviously, in a mono white deck, yeah, you that'd be really hard not to. 2 colors, yeah, you could definitely do that, but if you start getting to 3, 4, 5 colors, it gets to be a little bit more questionable depending on how you built your mana base. Next up, we have Slaughter the Strong for 6 cents. It's a sorcery that costs 1 white. It says each player chooses any number of creatures they control with total power 4 or less and sacrifices all the other creatures. So this is a really good one because, again, you can build your deck in a way that takes advantage of this. If anybody has a wall deck, this is just fantastic because if they have 0 power, then you have as many 0 power creatures, like your whole board will be protected and not sacrificed then. If you choose 4 1-powered creatures, it's 4 creatures that survive. If an opponent doesn't have any creature with power 4 or less, and they're all 5 or greater, then they're not going to save anything. They're all gone. And the sacrificing, that is the strongest way to board wipe, forcing them to sacrifice their creatures. Indestructible, hexproof won't get around it. They'd have to exile them until end of turn or phase them out. And last up, we have the Battle of the Bywater for 1 white. The sorcery costs about $1.18. It says destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater, then create a food token for each creature you control. So yeah, obviously it's got food and life gain synergies, but power 3 or greater, that's going to take out pretty much all the combat threats. Also, it being only 3 mana, you could, in theory, play this and then something else and something else, and when you have this in your hand, you're just going to hold back any creature you have with power 3 or greater until after you cast this. Now, the food tokens you create is for each creature you control, not each creature you control that died, or each creature that died. Nope, it's just a number of your creatures. So that could be a lot of food tokens. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to help the channel grow.